Welcome to Gray Overload. I'm Anthony, and this is a interesting issue because with the way CPUs are designed today, there's a lot of hey, this just works, and you can modify and change things in the microcode of these CPUs. But Intel actually paused Sapphire Rapids last week, I think it was, um, shipments of their MMC. So I'll get into that medium core count. Yeah, shipments of their Sapphire Rapids, but they have resumed now. And this is an article from Video Cards here, and they discovered a bug right in this processor, and it was just a medium core count. It wasn't the what is it, the X Extreme core count ones. It's just the medium one, and this was actually a really interesting thing for Intel to do. They paused the shipments of it. And one of the things that going through my head when I was going this, because I kind of watched this and I like this CPU design and looking at it, is everything that they've done, these CPU companies, has been a lot of microcode. Okay, we can code around this. We can modify it. We can prevent things through microcode and a lot of this stuff. But it turns out that microcode can't do everything, or maybe it can. Intel did find a workaround, right? They paused shipments out of abundance of caution. So it was big enough to pause the shipments because they wanted to know if they had to basically re-rev these CPUs, come up with a tweak design that fixed this issue in hardware rather than firmware. And they are now saying, here's Intel's thing, I'll read it here. Last week we informed you of an issue of a subset of fourth generation Intel Xeon medium core count processors, SRP MCC, that could interrupt this system operation under certain conditions. Out of abundance of caution, we temporarily paused some of the SRP-MMC shipments while we thoroughly evaluate the firmware mitigations. We are now confident the firmware mitigations address the issue, and we have resumed shipments of all versions of SRP-MMC and are working with the customers to deploy the firmware as needed. So that is from Intel there. And, here at Video Cards, they said, they've been experiencing problems with Sapphire Rapids, and the architecture was delayed for more than 2 years because of various bugs during development, and it pushed this back. Yeah, I think that this is, one product that Intel wishes that they could skip over and get to a product that better competes with all of AMD stuff that they're coming out with. AMD server side is running pretty rock solid. They're giving you delivery dates, times where they want to deliver this, and they're pretty much hitting it so far, which is, a thing that is causing Intel a little bit of pain. I do hope that Intel is able to come back a little bit and give AMD some more competition, as AMD's server side keeps increasing, but I think that that's going to be a little bit here. Now, as for this bug, right, we have this bug that they have to deal with, which is, understandable. I don't think that right now we are releasing anything in hardware software that's completely bug free, and nor do I think that you'll ever achieve that anymore at this time. I think that you can mitigate as many bugs as possible. We're just getting very much advanced, and I don't think that our testing is there yet to be able to mitigate almost everything. You'll always have some sort of bugs, but the key is being able to get around it in just firmware, or such a corner case that you may never ever hit it. And this was one of those cases where it was causing a problem, and I'm sure Intel's partners, these large companies that have bought many CPUs, were running into issues, and they were asking Intel what's going on here, and Intel had to go and do some research and figure out what the problem was. And it looks like they did a pretty good job here within a week to figure out a mitigation, or if they had to re-rev these. I'm guessing that they're also working on maybe a different rev of these to also have a more hardware side fix as well. That would only be my guess. They didn't say here, but that would, to me, that would be the logical step, unless these Sapphire Rapids shipments are going to be ending soon, and their next generation is going to be going forward. So that's one of those things that you got to keep in mind, that you got to, kind of figure out. But you know here they seem to be doing pretty good job of, getting this firmware, or working with the partners, get this out so that they can resume shipments. Because while I think you might have all this money in, if you're not getting shipments, some companies may say, we're not paying you until you figure this out. And as there's financial times, economic issues, headwinds, I would say, and some companies may not want to shell out the money unless they're going to get the product. So this is one of those videos I wanted to get to, because I like to get to bugs and stuff, especially in chips, and just keep track of that, bugs in software, bugs in chips, because we should be aware of that. Even though this is not, a security issue from what I can tell, this is more of a, an interruption under certain conditions. An interruption is a pretty big deal if you're running a huge business and it relies on CPUs like this. When you start to think it down, when you break it down of, yeah, your desktop or your laptop or your phone, if it's, down, it's an issue, right? You want it to be working, and then you have to take it in everything else. Think of a, business that relies on, everything going through. Let's say all of these CPUs are in their servers and it has an interruption issue. Oh yeah, so there's, millions of dollars that potentially you could be hurting yourself with, and I'm sure Intel doesn't want to feel the wrath of that. So I do appreciate all of you guys supporting the channel and everything else. Let me know what you think about this shipment. Was the firmware fix the right thing? Were you guys affected, or were your companies affected by this? And do you think Intel will actually do like a hardware rev or something else, or do you think they're just going to wait for the next generation server CPUs to kind of get by this, and maybe we'll see, right? Where do you think that they are in the market compared to AMD right now with their CPUs? Let me know all this stuff in the comments. Let's have a conversation down there. I do appreciate everything you guys do for the channel, supporting it, subscribing it, sharing it, liking, hitting the bell icon, all that fun stuff to keep this channel supported and growing. It's amazing what you guys have been able to do. And until next time, God bless.